Welcome back to Global TV Talk Show. Today is 1 March 2023, and it's the start of the International Women's Month. And our program today on Global TV Talk Show will celebrate that. And we have an interesting program. Our co-host is based in Boise, Idaho, and this is Dr. Lynn Schmidt, who's the author and creator of a best-selling book called Anti-Sexist. She's also an executive coach. She's going to be with us, of course, talking about the book and the meaningfulness of this International Women's Month. Global TV Talk Show is going to be producing programs throughout the month featuring people from different areas of the world and different angles on the topic of women in business leadership roles, creating a culture for well-being, not just in the workplaces, office, remote, hybrid, but also in the home, also in the communities. Well-being, it's a trendy word, and it means a lot more than mental health, although that's a good part of it. The right attitudes, right communications, meeting people properly, just a review of the basics. We need it, right? So joining us will be from India, Mumbai, India, Bindu Menon, who's really a leader. She began the company, launched a company called Relo India. Very successful. Her background includes PR and advertising and marketing, and she has applied all of those skills to create an enterprise full of joy and full of consideration for the people who are being relocated or who need that kind of advice. And joining us from Rotterdam is Tineke Rensen, who's a really energetic person. She has started several businesses. She's very energetic in the sports world, very active. And so we will have an interesting conversation, and we'll be right back with the show. Stay tuned. Welcome again to Global TV Talk Show. Our special guest today from Mumbai, India, is Bindu Menon. And our co-host today is our good friend, author and coach, Dr. Lynn Schmidt from Boise, Idaho. Welcome both.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Lynn,
Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you. Lynn is the author of Anti-Sexist. And do you have the book handy you can hold up to the camera? All right, so, there it is. And tell us about yourself after a year after publishing that book. This show is in celebration of this March, starting today, International Women's Month, I guess. Dr. Lynn Schmidt, tell us your take on what this month is all about, the meaningfulness and the fact that it's global, and the role of your book. There's a lot to be on your plate so early in the morning. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Absolutely. Yeah, it's actually Women's History Month, as well as International Women's Day, which is March 8th, but the events, the discussions tend to run the entire month, and they should run the entire year. Absolutely. As far as my book goes, Anti-Sexist, and it's focused on really pulling together all the aspects of sexism, from microaggressions to discrimination to harassment to violence, to give everyone a full picture of what sexism is, because so many people get caught up in that it's one thing to them. It means, well, she doesn't get that promotion, or she's catcalled when she walks down the street. But most people don't really see the full picture and the full impact. And I want to start with this. I did a post on LinkedIn last week that got, let's see, where are we at now? 3,500 responses and 450 shares. And so obviously it had significant impact. And here's what the post was, because I opened chapter 1 of my book with this quote: "The abuse of women and girls is the most pervasive and unaddressed human rights violation on earth. Women's inequality has profoundly affected our world." Jimmy Carter, 39th US President, winner of the 2002 Nobel Peace Prize. And obviously that significantly resonated with women and men as well. But he wrote a book about this in 2014, so it's pretty recent. And his TED Talk was in 2015 that this quote comes from. But he ended his TED Talk with this statement, which I also think significantly resonated: "There's one more basic cause that I need not mention, and that is that in general, men don't give a damn. That's true. The average man that might say, 'I'm against the abuse of women and girls,' quietly accepts the privileged position that we occupy." And so I think those two quotes are a good way to start the month, to get us seriously looking at the most pervasive and unaddressed human rights issue, which is the abuse of women and girls, and the fact in general, most men don't give a damn.
So when you say abuse, you're referring to physical as well as mental.
When I say abuse, I'm referring to really the 4 outcomes of sexism. And if you listen to Jimmy Carter's TED Talk, he speaks about it broadly as well. Abuse is anything that starts with microaggressions. So that's insults, that's rude comments, that's things you hear daily, to discrimination, whether it's in the workforce, education, healthcare. Women are discriminated against just about everywhere in every system, to harassment, which is the street harassment, it's the on-the-job harassment, to violence, which is the rape, the domestic violence, the sexual mutilation, the sex trafficking, the femicide, being killed. Most women, a large majority of women, about 80,000 women in a year. It's several women a day worldwide are murdered by someone they know, a family member or partner. And that's referred to as femicide. So when you say abuse, it really refers to all of those things.
So Bindo, thanks very much for doing this. I know it's 8 p.m. Plus where you are, long day. You
this is a great opportunity for me, and I love the subject.
Yeah. You have your own experiences in India, which great country, huge, so diverse, cultures, languages, locations. And you mentioned in another communication with me that the society is changing, but there's a long, long history of male dominance, right?
Yes. So to begin with, since Lynn started about March and International Women's Day and why we are all talking about this, I'm thrilled to tell you that I was born on March 8th. So you can imagine what it reflects on me. I've been joking to my friends ever since then, saying I was born and then they declared it International Women's Day. So because I am known to be that fiercely, I'm not a feminist like the bra-burning feminist, like we say. But I am not one of those who will tolerate any injustice to women in any way, like Lynn said, verbal, physical, whatever. I come from a country where women are supposedly respected because the goddesses, the deities that we have in the temples, we have the gods and the goddesses in the Hindu temples. And we have like 1,000 gods and goddesses. So don't even get into that right now. But we worship the goddess. And we're supposed to be a society, a culture that derives strength from the goddess. And then you actually get to live in a society that is so insanely patriarchal. And when you live in the society, and then you are one of those who's questioning everything, you're always the outlier. You're always the one who is, oh my God, why can't you just be, actually, I wanted to write a post on LinkedIn about the word adjust. That's the most common word used in India. Every
Adjust.
woman is taught to adjust.
Adjust to someone else's ideas.
Adjust to everything. Adjust to everything. You have a problem in the family, adjust. You have a male abusing you, adjust. If you have a bad marriage, adjust. Everything is about adjusting. It's been like drilled into our heads. We're not supposed to, we don't get support. You're not supposed to question and so on. But having said that, I am very, very happy to tell you that India is going through a huge cultural transformation, right from the rural parts of India, because that's the belly of India. Rural India is like 70% plus. So you can imagine what you see modern women like me. I mean, today I'm dressed deliberately in Indian clothes, but if you see me traveling, you may just mistake me for any other global, woman. So I'm saying for women like us to see that there is a change happening, starting from the right to education, starting from telling your parents that I want to be educated. And your parents also believing that, yes, a girl too can be educated. It stems from that in my country. But because of education, much to the despair of men, because of education, women are now stepping out of their, those lines, as you call it. They're getting into work, they're beginning to earn, they're becoming so independent, and then their thinking, their exposure, everything is changing. The software industry has changed India's lifestyle of Indian women today, and the kind of earning power they have and the confidence they come with, and therefore they have a choice today because they're earning as much or more than even their siblings, male siblings. There are times when girls call off weddings, girls say, no, I do not want to get married now. I want to study further. So this is the change I'm very excited to see. And I'm seeing this across the states of India.
We want to welcome Tineke Rensen. Hi, Tineke. Welcome back from Marrakesh.
Thank you, Ed. I'm sorry, I had 4 p.m. in my calendar for today, so I didn't know time changed.
I know. It's my daytime, my daylight savings time. I just screwed up. So I had to send out another message, and then it got really confusing. So I want to introduce you, and then I'm going to let you introduce yourself much better than I can do. Tineke Rensen is a strong woman, and she's been an entrepreneur for many years, and helps a lot of women currently, and she also helps herself. She's an energetic sports enthusiast for many years. Tineke, why don't you take a minute here and do a better job than I just did?
Thank you, Ed. Well, first of all, is this live?
Yes, it's live worldwide, and I want to
apologize for entering late.
No problem. We've just been talking away here, just getting comfortable. So this is Bindu Menon from Mumbai. And she is an entrepreneur for 17 years plus, background in marketing and PR and advertising. She started a company which is very, very successful called Relo India, and I'll let her do more. And Dr. Lynn Schmidt is my partner here and co-host in the series we're doing all month. And she's written a book that's a bestseller, Anti-Sexist.
Okay.
Would you mind holding that book up again, Lynn? Let the audience see that again. Anti-Sexist. And she says everybody's a sexist, including me.
Okay.
So, here I am.
Everybody is, including me.
That's good to know.
So how did you like Marrakesh and Agadir?
Well, yeah, I got back yesterday, so I've been leaving my country for a month just to work, because I work online. I can work anywhere, and I thought, you know what, escape the cold winter here in Europe and travel to a warm country. It's been life-changing. I've created my new brand. I have been working on myself as well a lot, as well as training, having holiday, working. So it's, being on your own, completely on your own in a foreign country, it requires taking different things out of yourself. It requires different attitudes, different behavior, different actions. And I think, yeah, that's why I left.
So we have been talking about sexism, I guess, is a good word, and abuse, abuse, mental abuse and physical abuse, and how India is changing now. So, Bindo, why don't you just recap what you just said, not only for the audience, but for Tineke, and then let's go forward.
Yes, Tineke. So starting with the fact that I was born on 8th March, and so therefore how the whole concept of International Women's Day is very special for me. I was telling them that India is going through a tremendous change, a transformational period, I would say, where women are standing up for themselves because they are stepping forward to educate themselves. Even the right of education is a luxury for many women in rural India, but that is happening today. Like if I have domestic help, she wouldn't want her daughter to be, doing a domestic help job tomorrow. So she would give her life to educate the girl. And even after educating, she knows that she would like her daughter to work in an organization. So what is happening is right now, women are actually stepping out of their zones which were restricted, and now they're coming out, and when they see the world, they actually see the sun shining on them. And so much so that actually men are not able to take it in India. A lot of them are talking about this. And everybody's saying, oh yeah, but women have become arrogant and women have become this. It's because women are just discovering themselves, their strength. And every time a woman steps into any industry for that matter, she has just proven in India that across industry, across age groups, they seem to be shining and they seem to be going to the top, where even flying, even going to space, anything, so the opportunities are plenty and the time is just right for us. So we're hoping that before India turns 100 in a few years, we are in the 75th year, perhaps life will come back one full circle. We see that culturally happening.
Let me jump in here and then I'll be quiet, promise. So I want to bring forth a conversation that Tineke and I have had before, and she talks about, and we'll talk about extensively here when I stop talking, about, she's going to talk about women, from her view, need to become more masculine in their approach in business in order to succeed, and then questions about the whys. Tineke?
Yeah. Well, it's going back. Men have been paving the roads for us. We've always, they were the hunters, they were the providers. We were at home developing the social skills. They started businesses, they started democracies, everything has been initiated by men, which is except how we raise our kids, what we eat, and how we influence men. That's always been our role as women throughout history, more in the background. And there are exceptions. There have been empresses, there have been queens, of course. But overall, most of the major things have been dominated. The things that we see and make a difference to countries have been dominated by men. So that's not a judgment from my point. It's just what happened. So the skills, the strategies, the energies, the habits, everything is masculine. The things that, and what we bring to the table, our social skills, our intuition, our empathy, our collaboration, they are in some societies still perceived as the weak skills, the soft skills. That's how they're called, soft skills. And why is that the case? It's because they're not masculine skills. So man did not know how to use it. They were used to divide and conquer. They were used to have power, overpower, not empower. So everything where authority and decision making is in place, it subconsciously has become and still is masculine. And for women to become successful, it's either, and this is slippery, what I now see is they have to adopt a lot of these masculine traits, which for many women are not easy. And that's my wish, we will have to bring in more feminine to balance this out so that women can be more who they truly are supposed to be. And many women don't even know that they became very masculine, because it's what society dictates us to do. It's the books we read, it's the courses we take, it's the strategies we learn. So whenever I talk to masculine women, they say, you know, women should step up and women should get rid of this and women should do this and women should do that. That's all neglecting who we truly are. And some are born more masculine, some are born more feminine. But wouldn't it be great if we could see that this is what's happening and what's going on, and that we can embrace more the feminine and allow more of that in our world as well. And in the West, that's surely happening a lot. In the West, it's all in the Western countries. But there's a lot of, and it's totally different from India. Don't get me wrong, women there do really have to become extremely powerful to surface. So, but in Western countries, we've had that, and now it's more time, from in my perception, to start balancing that and to more harmonize that.
Bindu.
Yeah. Can I quickly come in and make a point, because I wanted to, you know, dwell on one point that Tineke made, is that we come with certain skills which are like, under a broader term, it's called caregivers, right? I mean, with empathy, and I'm just putting it all encompassing term. And men went out and they were the providers and so on. But can you imagine how the dynamics have changed and see what it is doing to us as women? And before anybody else gets us wrong, I think all three of us admit that we are not on a male bashing trip here, and we love men. It's just that we love men who celebrate women, right? Or who respect, acknowledge, celebrate, whatever nice words you can use. So before, you know, people think that we are here like saying like punch, this, you know, we don't like men. No, we love men. So get this right. Now, here we're talking about when we have these skills which are so inherently in us, right? When we're already caregivers, we're already thinking with empathy, we're already stepping into others' shoes and sensitively dealing with any issues. And then we have it's not that we come only with those skills. We always came with intelligence. We always came with analytical skills. We came with logical thinking, everything. We were just not required to provide it. That's all. And our roles that were given to us traditionally, we just didn't have to provide it or use it. So today's world, what is happening is we come with the best combination, if you notice. I mean, I'm talking about my mother's generation, I'm talking about the 70s, and we are looking at them saying, we have people who are math professors, and they were super good in science and super good in languages and all kinds of skills they come with. If you put those women, and fantastic managerial skills, they managed money, they managed investments. I'm talking at a very domestic level, but if you take a woman from that generation with all these inherent, skills, soft skills as we call it, if you come with that, put the two together, put them in a business corporate environment, can you imagine how she will shine? That's what is happening. In India, we're seeing people who are draped in sari every day, looking very traditional, especially if you come to South India or any of the, Western, northern states, which are a little more away from the main big cities. Hair braided and traditional saris and so on. They go out there and they are doing a fantastic job in the tax departments, in space, in engineering and everything. And you see them, and I talk to these women all the time. I talk to people all the time to understand what life is like. When you talk to them, especially when you travel within India, because this is like a continent. It's not, I always say this, it's not like a country. So if you go to one state in India in the south, and then you go to another state in the north, it's diametrically opposite in terms of culture even. So my point here is, when I speak to them, and they just look so modest and they're casually talking to me. And when I ask one woman, I'm actually giving you an example. She says, oh, I have to go to Pakistan tomorrow. I said, what do you do? because she was enamored by the fact that I work with expatriates. I'm an intercultural trainer. Oh, that's so wonderful. So I said, what do you do? Oh, I just have to go there, and I am the one who stamps the quality control for huge factories. She's the one who goes to other countries, checks the quality of those organizations or factories, manufacturing plants, and she's like the Bureau of International Standards. You know, she puts a stamp on, and my jaw dropped. She had nothing of all that written on her. So when we're talking about this traditionally masculine and feminine skills, she had none of those written on her, the masculine skills. But there she is. She's going to different countries from different cultures, leaving her child with her husband, and she looks so traditional. And that is what I love about what I'm seeing in India, because so different. They have no corporate look about them. They could just be, you can see her at a temple tomorrow and you might just look at her like a regular homemaker.
Lynn?
Yeah,
Fantastic, right?
thanks. A couple of things one thing I want to go back to is what you opened up with, saying everyone is sexist. Well, the United Nations did a research study of 80 of the countries, and they found that 9 out of 10 people, men and women, have at least one deeply ingrained bias against women and girls. And that doesn't even count maybe just the daily types of biases you might have against women and girls. So I do want to put that on the table, because the thing I run into the most is women who say, I can't believe this woman treated me this way. Well, I'm sexist. The media, the way you're raised, all you can do, you can't get rid of your biases, but you can learn about them and you can manage them. And what I do is I try to stop things that I know are my biases, from coming out of my mouth and impacting my actions. So I think that's important to put on the table as we have this discussion, that we're all sexist to varying degrees. The other thing that I think is important around this discussion of women and leadership and management and stereotypical female or masculine styles is that women are what is called a double bind, which means we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. So women who have stereotypical female style, nurturing, what have you, because they're born that way, are raised that way, what have you, and they move into a leadership role, they're liked by others because they act like women should, but they're in a leadership role. So they're damned because they're in a leadership role. And they aren't expected to do well because they are too soft. So it's a double bind. Women are damned if they do, damned if they don't, because women who have naturally, not forced, naturally more masculine style, which is directive, assertive, driving, and they're in a management role, they're damned for 2 reasons. 1, they're not acting like a woman should. And 2, they're in a leadership role. And as we know, leadership, as you explained, talked about, leadership was created by men and has been men in those leadership roles for forever. Leadership in and of itself is defined as a masculine role. So I think that's important as we talk about women in these roles is we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. Someone is going to find something wrong with us being leaders, regardless of our style. And usually it's a natural style. It can be forced, but often we're either maybe have more masculine, stereotypically masculine traits, or stereotypically more feminine traits.
I want to remind everybody to use the chat and put down your LinkedIn or your website address, so that's a takeaway, because sometimes we get wrapped up in conversation, we forget to do the basic things to take it forward. So Tineke, you're back from a vacation. You had freedom, mind freedom. You saw new things. Your mind opened up. I love some of the pictures you sent me from the streets of Marrakesh. So let me ask you a question about walking down the streets. You're a beautiful woman, attractive, white, blonde, in this country of dark people, essentially men, in the bazaar area, right? How did you feel? I mean, did you feel safe?
Well, this happened in Europe when I was younger as well. And I don't know if that would still be the same in Spain and Italy, like it was 30 years ago when I was 20, or even 40 years nearly. So I don't want to sound cocky, but I'm used to that, so I don't mind. It would really feel odd or off if that wouldn't happen, to be honest. So I think that's beautiful. I mean, I love to be adored. I love it when men pay attention. So I am not bothered about it at all. So and you can expect that as a woman on your own, blonde, in a what you say dark country. Why would I go against that? I think that. And yeah, it has happened when I'm in a tube that I felt a hand on my butt. And I put that on Facebook. This was another trip. It was in Dubai. And women would go berserk about it. And I think, well, at least I'm still attractive. It was that crowded and it was that busy. Maybe it was not on purpose. It probably was, but I'm not that bothered about these kind of things, because that's the typical thing, the dynamic between men and women. And okay, yeah, I can understand that men should respect the woman, but as a woman, I really don't like a feminine man. I don't like that. I like a masculine man. I like a man who stands for his woman. I like a man who praises you and who adores you, and makes decisions. And it's not always democratic. Like, okay, what do you feel? Well, shall we go tonight for dinner? I like it when he would say, okay, I made a table. I reserved a table. We're going there. That's totally okay with me. I think we, as women, we should play the equal right in a different way. We shouldn't play it at home. Yeah, I like it when he helps doing the dishes. I like it when he helps cooking. But also for men, this time is not easy. Yeah, it's not easy for us women, but it's the same for men. We don't need men anymore to provide. So we need them to feel whole, to feel complete. What nature is designed to be in a relationship, the yin yang, and okay, there's all kinds of relationships, and I'm not judging any of that, but for me personally, I like a strong masculine man. I like it when he stands in his power. I like it when he makes decisions. But when I'm in my business, I am the one in charge. I am that person. So I think we should be able to switch, and we should let men be the man in our house, not in business. That's where we should choose our battles, and that's where we should try to be equal and fight the biases. We all have them. I was like that as well. When I started working with women after being in a masculine and male dominated industry for more than 20 years, I was looking at women and I said, oh my God, what are they doing? They're playing small, they're playing silly. I was judging women a lot, but I didn't realize that I was biased by the men I worked with. I had no idea. So we all have to have that awareness. And it's constant, like you say, Lynn, it's constantly minding words, and it's constantly asking for feedback. It's constantly being open for people reflecting to you and not being heard. Have your foundation. When people make an honest share their honest opinion about something, I say, oh, there's something I can learn. So you have to be open to that. Yeah.
Yeah, Lynn.
Yeah, I want to go back to your question. You used the word safety, safe.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting when we talk about sexism, how everyone has their particular focus. And that's why I wrote the book, because my book covers microaggression, discrimination, harassment, and violence. And you said, how safe did you feel? I have traveled the world alone for probably 30 years. This year, 2022, I was in Scotland, all over Scotland. I was all over the UK. I was in Greece. I was in Croatia. So you say safety, and it's interesting. I'm on a lot of travel sites because I love to travel. I never see a man ask this question, but many women will get on the site. Let's say it's a site for London, traveling to London. And the women will get on and say, what's the safest area in London for me to stay?
Right.
How safe is London for me? Because 1 in 4 women are raped. 1 in 3 women are abused, violently abused. So safety is critical to women. We are brought up to have our keys in our hands when we walk to our cars. We are brought up to look and see if someone's following us. We are brought up to be cautious and careful wherever we go. Doesn't mean you won't be comfortable. Doesn't mean, but we are brought up in a way that men can't understand. Men can go for a run at night and not even think about it. Women can't. And so you said safety, and that's not, in my mind, that's not about business or men appreciating your looks. It's about how safe do you feel when you're alone walking on a street, because 1 in 4 women are raped. 1 in 3 women experience violence by men to them. And as I said, 80,000 women a year have been killed by someone in their family or partner, femicide. So safety is a big issue. And that's the root cause, once again, is sexism. And we often don't think of that, but men's opinions of women that they're less than is what makes them feel they're entitled to rape and murder and harass and abuse women.
Oh, well, I'm speechless, so Bindu.
It's true as well.
Yeah,
it's definitely true. As
safety
well.
is a big issue, of course, because I can tell you, as a woman who's lived in India most of all my life, rather lived, but traveled a lot. When I go to Hong Kong to visit my daughter who's studying at the University of Hong Kong there, I can't tell you how relieved I feel. I can't tell you how I know I don't have to, like you're saying, Tineke, that you don't, I somehow, there are places like when I go outside India, when you travel by the public transport in Singapore and Hong Kong, and I know that I don't have to worry about, is my neckline deep? Is my sleeve showing? Is my this? Is my that? And is somebody looking at me? I feel so absolutely safe. And then I'm saying, I take the bus, I come back alone at 2 o'clock in the morning. And when I'm telling my family in India, saying, you know what, I'm just going out and I'm back even at 2 a.m. It's perfectly okay. Are you sure? Because it's a huge concern for women, right? And I'm saying, it's not just like, I'm glad you brought this up, Lynn. I've also done the research when I wrote an article about being safe in India. Everybody thinks it only happens in India. At least Indians think it happens only in India. But you don't realize that it can happen all over. And I was so shocked to know that some of the European countries, like even Sweden, is high on the rape count in terms of the statistics that you show, whether it is America or Sweden. And when I wrote that article, and I was shocked myself because I said, well, I used to think that, or not just me, Indians think, oh, come, or even expats when they come into India, they think that every second woman is being raped here. I mean, and this is an eye-opener for me that you can be anywhere in UK or any of the advanced countries, and this fear of women being safe still lurks, and that is sad, right?
Yeah, it is. It's very sad, and that's.
Yeah,
I think what's
that's a
important
basic
is
right.
I mean,
like you said, if a woman cannot walk on the roads, if she can't go out for a run at night, that's the basic right that a woman can have as much as a man can, right? Simple things like this.
Yeah. There's a woman on Twitter who every year does a call out to women and say, if you had 24 hours where men no longer existed, what would you do? And they aren't harmed, the men aren't harmed, they'll come back. But if you had 24 hours where men weren't on earth, what would you do? And it's amazing. It's things like, I'd go for a run at night. I'd go lie on the, I'd take a nap on the beach at night and not have to worry about myself. I'd be able to let my daughter walk down the street to her friends and not have to have her call me or text me when she got there. I mean, the list goes on, and it's not huge things. It's things just like that women actually don't feel comfortable or safe doing.
Right.
So let's go into your book, Lynn. Just
It's not
go.
something I feel
Yeah.
a lot, Lynn. I mean, I never feel unsafe.
That's, yeah, great.
Yeah,
But I mean, the data
but I'm
shows.
amazed with what you say. So I mean, it's studies, so it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that 1 in 4 women are raped.
Yeah.
1 in 3 women suffer abuse.
Yeah, I heard it.
Right now, if you're watching the news in the UK, I think they're up to 3 women a week being murdered in the UK for being women. That's femicide. It's
Nice.
5 women a day in the US that are murdered via femicide. The numbers are high everywhere. You just have, I mean, in writing my book, getting back to my book, one thing I started doing is watching the headlines. And I still do it. It's a habit now I can't break. And violence is one part of it, but I mean, the microaggression, the discrimination cases against women, whether it's in healthcare. I mean, the way women have not been used to do testing in healthcare, and it's usually, they're usually 2 to 3 years behind in finding an illness in a woman versus a man. I mean, I could go on and on about that. So discrimination is everywhere. Harassment and the different kind of harassments, whether it's on the job, sexual harassment, whether it's walking down the street. And the fact that we as women accept some of that is what allows it to continue. So I don't know if you're familiar with the case in London where the girl was abducted by a police officer. And she was murdered. And this was about a year or so ago. And what happened was this police officer started with microaggression. He insulted women. He was rude to women. He did that in front of his police officer partners. People ignored it. They had a chat room on WhatsApp, and he was allowed, it was accepted for him to abuse women verbally that way. Then he moved on to different types of discrimination. Then he moved on to harassment. Just a few days before he kidnapped that woman and murdered her, he actually had flashed someone at McDonald's, and it was reported, and no one did anything about it. It was accepted. And then he went on to violence, to kidnap, kill it, rape, and murder a woman. So when we as women or men don't address it at the microaggression level, if someone grabs your butt on the subway and you don't address it, you're allowing it to be accepted behavior. And so the one thing I think we all have to think about is, what are we allowing to be accepted that could then therefore escalate to other things? So, you know.
Yeah.
Would you recommend that, if I may jump in, would you recommend physical training and arming, not necessarily with a gun, but with some kind of a protective device?
So there you're putting the burden on women. And I disagree with that. So women, don't let yourself get raped. Take a course in how to defend yourself. Women, don't let yourself get raped. Carry a gun. This isn't about women letting themselves get raped. This is about men raping women. Men need to stop. Men need to be held accountable. It gets back to men, and it shouldn't be for women to have to carry their keys in their hands, take a defense course, carry a gun. That's not the root cause.
True.
Can I step in, Edwin, to just make one point, which is probably very unique to India, because we are the world's largest film producers in the world. I mean, the number of productions that come in every year, right? You can go look up the figures. And we have languages, films in every language of every state. Though Bollywood is the most popular, Bollywood is only made in Mumbai. That is just one city, that's all. Every other state has a huge number of films. So from the films, if you know that films are a reflection of what is happening in the society, I can tell you that the last few years have seen some fantastic films where you're asking the same question that Lynn is asking, saying, why should it be the responsibility of the women to arm herself, or to carry pepper spray, or to decide how she steps out of the house, rather than educating the men to do these things, and asking every woman to question themselves about what their right in the society is. I can even recommend some films offline, but you must watch some of them, which really shows you Indian culture. It shows you what the changes are in today's society and how women are overcoming these challenges, which have been mindlessly been going on over the decades. So films are doing a great job in communicating the change and also kind of empowering women, because a lot of women who watch these films, like you said, it could be just abuse at home, which is not physical, even verbal, deriding a woman, mocking her, or making those funny things. Men think it's funny when you talk about a woman and her culinary skills in front of people, or so it could be anything, right? Or lack of knowledge of current affairs, or it could be anything. And the films that show and make men, hopefully, but I know a lot of men have felt that way because they've written about it or they've spoken, make them feel so bad about themselves and why they do it, because they do it every day. They don't even realize they do it unless they see it on the screen and say, oh my God, yes, this is exactly what I do. So fantastic films, and everything from the middle class Indian society that is reflected out there for you to watch and know what Indian culture is all about and what transformation is going on.
Yeah, that's a great comment, because the media plays a huge role in propagating sexism. I mean, children, think about it, if you're familiar with the Disney films, I mean, hugely sexist. Now they're coming out with some better ones as well. But when you think about a girl child starting to watch Disney films at 3 or 4 or whatever, and she's learning Little Mermaid, she's learning that she needs to keep her mouth shut if she wants to get a man, so sexist. Or think about headlines, start watching headlines. The headlines in papers, a woman's raped, it'll say, woman was at a bar drunk and was raped. It should say a man raped a woman, walking when she was walking down the street or whatever. But no, it's a woman was in a bar drinking and she was raped. It's never the man's fault. And so the media is terrible at really propagating sexism, and even if a parent is trying their hardest to make their child anti-sexist, the media can really be one that drives creating biases in people, sexism.
So talking about the media, the films are doing one step ahead, where leading actors in Indian film industry from across languages are even choosing scripts that do not include these kind of sexist lines or sexist scenes. And that itself is a big step, that, when the leading actors do it, because until then it was machoism on the screen. And, if they did it, then it's like, oh, I can do it, or I should do it to be as macho as them. And huge hero worship in India. So today, actors are actually looking at scripts and even vetting the language that is used, the words that are used, gestures, dialogues, everything. So I'm very happy that step is happening. Like I said, every drop makes a mighty ocean. Yes, every step forward from men can make women's lives better.
Yeah, and it's we need to do it together. That's it starts with our sons. I don't have, but if we would, it starts with our husbands. And those are the ones who we can influence. It starts with our managers. It starts with our directors. It starts. Yeah, it has to be together, because we need the men. The change cannot come just from women, because then we're the wrong, and they can put us where we've always been. So yeah, we do need those men, definitely.
But I think it's Tineke, if I can make a point now, I think it's also about women knowing when to stop the man and explain to him. We're not saying put out your fists and punch them. No. We're saying, for instance, if the man, even if he's your man in your own life, if he says something, if he raises his voice, or if he speaks rudely, or if he says something which you don't like, it's nice to go up to him. I don't know how many women can do it, but I'm one of those. But nice to go up to him and tell him, I don't think, may not be at that time, but wait for a moment, go back and tell him, I don't think this is the way you should have dealt with it. Did you think of it? Perhaps there could be, like you're saying, we should work together, Tineke. There is a way where you could work together with them, not to give them that but they are so conditioned to living like that. Perhaps there's 1 in 10 men who would actually sit down and say, I need to do some introspection and change the way I'm doing things. So
but this is exactly the feminine role. This is exactly what I meant.
right.
The woman, if the masculine woman would go up to the man and try and change, it wouldn't work, because he'll be fighting with another man, even though she's dressed as a woman. It is exactly what you say. It has to come through the feminine, through the soft, through the addressing, but not overpowering men. It has to come through the feminine.
But then again, Lynn made a statement where why should it be the woman's job to do it? I mean, so I think it's about...
It's the woman's job to educate men. I think so, because they don't know any better. And then they can educate one another. But it's in our interest as well.
Yeah, there's the whole thing about accountability. And it could start as simply as locker room talk. You know, the men that are aware are afraid to say or do anything. And that gets back to the statement I opened with from Carter, is when he said, in general, you know, men don't give a damn. And even though they'll say the abuse of women is awful, they won't let go of their privilege to do anything about it. And so, you know, in the locker room, I mean, there's all sorts of talk. All a man would have to do is say, what do you mean by that? Or a woman. This is my favorite question when someone's doing something sexist or saying something sexist. What do you mean by that? Pause and wait till they say something, and then say, well, but this is how I interpreted it, and this is how it impacted me. So all a man would have to do if his friend is talking smack or talking bad about a woman in the locker room is say, hey, you know, what did you mean by that? Well, here's how I interpreted it, and here's what I think about that. And there are some men stepping up. Allyship is so important, or men being accomplished, really taking a stand and stepping up is so important to end this. But they've got to hold their buddies accountable. That's where it starts. They've got to hold their brothers accountable. They've got to hold their fathers or friends or sons accountable. And that's what has big impact.
Right.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you for being on Global TV Talk Show, where our total audience around the world is pretty much 50-50. It depends on the show, where the audience is largely female, a minority of men. I think this program will be viewed and viewed and viewed around the world multiple times as a lesson. And I've sat here listening and learning, and I thank you.
Thank you very much, Edwin. I think
and I think it's amazing that you dare to be this kind of host, to give these mouthful women a stage. So this is exactly the kind of collaboration we were talking about, and you demonstrate this so beautifully, Ed.
We should applaud Edwin for that.
Yeah,
well,
definitely.
thank you. But, you know, this is a commercial enterprise, and we're going to make money by selling ad space to support this program circulation around the world. And so it'll be viewed by easily 100,000 over the next month, easily, probably much bigger.
Wow.
Great.
Well, that's amazing.
It's such an important topic, and it shouldn't just be this month or March 8th that we talk about it, but it's so critical. And I truly believe, I mean, I use Jimmy Carter's quote in my book, but I truly believe that the abuse of women and girls is the most pervasive and unaddressed issue in the world.
So you will each get a copy of this program. I'm going to send you 2 versions. We have what's called a gallery. That's what you're looking at right now, where we're all here on the billboard. But then I have a Hollywood close-up edition, which is really quite dramatic. And so you could use either one for your own distribution if you wish.
Great.
There's no fee involved. Don't worry about that. I'm happy to fund it. So the copy of this program will be posted on LinkedIn. I live on LinkedIn and been a member there for more than 10 years. We have a total reach through the different groups of at the maximum 4 million. Doesn't mean everyone's going to open the thing, but that's going to reach that.
Right.
But more practically, it's around 700,000, and these are the large groups like SHRM, Society of Human Resource Management, which is like 150,000, and they use my stuff as part of their distribution network. So it's really interesting. We have a guest coming in. Oops, I think I just lost it. 1 second, please. I'm sorry. I made a mistake here. Okay, here we are. This is a friend of mine, Mark Colo, and he is in Utah. And he'll join us in just a minute. And I think you'll find him really interesting. I know you all have to get off and go, but very happy to welcome you, Mark. Say hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Okay. You have to show yourself.
Oh, hang on. Let me get that. Yeah, that is me there. That's me with the blue head. I'm really cold right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Snowing. It's snowing there, right?
Yeah.
And we are not averse to seeing men, don't worry.
What's that? Oh,
We're not averse to seeing more men, I said.
No, that's cool.
You're talking.
So I want to introduce Mark Colo. He's now retired from a very successful career in the relocation business in the U.S., mostly California, trucking, household goods, transportation, and his focus has been with the medical science research community. And about 14 years ago, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And so we have had Mark come on various shows over the years. This is my 3rd year doing this thing. And Mark and I have developed a medical TV talk show series where we interview his clients, research scientists, stem cell geniuses. Mark, I want you to meet Bindu Menon, who's live with us from Mumbai, India. Mumbai? How should I say that? Mumbai?
Yes, Mumbai.
Okay. And I think you may have met Tineke Rensen, who's with us in Rotterdam right now. And Dr. Lynn Schmidt is in Boise.
Boise.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it cold there today in Boise?
We had snow last night, so
Yeah.
we're still having winter.
We've had our share of
we had
snow,
frost
and
as
I think
well.
I'm finished with it. I'm not used to snow.
Yeah, it just started raining here. This is our 8th storm hitting
Oh, yeah, that's right.
San Diego. So watch out, people. The snow is coming your way.
That's right. You guys are getting flooded. I've been following the news. Wow. Exciting.
Well, yeah. So anyway, I thank you for showing up, Mark. We're about to close the show. We've had a really fascinating discussion for the past hour on the topic of discrimination and how abuse of women, mental and physical. And Dr. Lynn Schmidt is my co-host in this series. And Mark has, as I mentioned, been afflicted with Parkinson's over 14 years with a young family. And Mark has been learning how to cope with that.
Yeah, it's been a challenge, but you can get through just about anything if you have the right principles to follow. But,
well, we were talking about lack of principles here.
Oh.
But not them, but about men.
Well, you
Yeah.
got to get
Well,
those
it's not always lack of principle, but it's also lack of awareness, I think.
I agree.
There you go.
Yeah,
Good,
because
good.
Yeah.
there can be very principled men wanting to do the right thing, but it's sometimes also not being aware of how it comes across to us women, or how it's ingrained in society, even in the women's minds as well.
Yeah.
So it's principle awareness. I think that's more important.
Yeah. Well, ego as well in the marketplace and in the business world. Ego is sometimes, gets in people's way, and
Yeah, and that's with men and women.
yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. So, but I've been through some of those. Ed and I have talked about a few of those instances in my earlier career, but it was some hard lessons. Let's just say we learned some hard lessons in life, and we learn from them. Hopefully, we move through them, and we can help others who get in similar situations. That's always my goal and my objective. So,
Yeah, we
Can I
have
ask
ended.
Mark a question, Ed?
Oh, please.
Yeah, because we were just talking about how the change on how women are being treated in business, in society, part of it is due to men. So how do you look at this topic? What are you doing to contribute to more equal space for women in the workforce? And how
that's
do you
a
look
great question. We could probably spend another 2 hours on that one, I'm sure, at least. Maybe
But
more.
now we have an opportunity of asking.
I'll share in a nutshell what my philosophy is. I have kind of a religious background, and not to say that one religion is better than the other. One has all truth, one has limited truth, and such and so on and so forth. But religion to me has a good bearing in our lives and in the workplace, because there are certain principles that we learn in religion that are, do unto others as you have them do unto you. Live the golden rule, set your ego aside, and let's find the better good for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, what color you are, what faith you are, you're still a human being, and you're still one of God's children from my perspective. So I think you need to treat everyone equally. I try and smile and talk to everyone I see every day when I go on my walks. I walk every morning. Every morning I will make at least one new friend that I'll talk to and hopefully impart some thoughts and ideas on. And I'm just thrilled to be able to make a difference in someone else's life, especially if they're struggling, because we all struggle at times. We're all going to struggle. We're all going to have times where we fall down, and I have a thing called a resting tremor. You guys can probably see that. It's evident when you have Parkinson's, one of the most common symptoms. But it brings certain challenges and frustrations and idiosyncrasies and just all those things. But the bottom line of all that is that, you can get through it, and you can live with it, and you can adjust to it. And so we do. So my big mantra these days is adaptability proliferates possibilities. And so if you just think about how can I adapt to the situation? If I'm working for a boss I don't like, being, mean to me, or he's belittling me, or he's, heaven forbid, discriminating against me, you got to stand up for your rights, but you gotta, be firm, and you got to just keep your morals and your principles and keep your values. It's kind of easy to get influenced. I won't tell the story yet, but if we had time, I would.
Well, before you do that, we were talking about, from a women's point of view, how not necessarily the world of men is against women, and it's really not that. And I'm stumbling around a little bit here, Lynn. Maybe you could help me. But
Sexism exists. It's a bias.
Yeah.
It's a reality. 9 out of 10 people are sexist towards women. They have one deeply ingrained bias, at least one towards women. That's men and women. That's 9 out of 10 people worldwide, a United Nations study. And that sexism results in microaggression, which is insults, rudeness. It results in discrimination on the job and in healthcare and in education. It results in harassment of women on the street and on the job. And it results in violence. It results in rape. It results in domestic violence. It results in all of that. So that's what we've been talking about, is the outcomes of sexism and how to the role we were talking about allyship and the role that men need to play in standing up against locker room talk.
Yeah.
Something their brother might say, or their son might say, or a friend might say. Do you stand up and tell them, hey, that's sexist?
Yeah, I
So
think
that's what we were
you're-
talking about.
I think you have to stand up and you have to, put your foot down. That's one of our little sayings.
But
Yeah.
Mark, an example, you say, if you don't like it, you just go and find another job. But what if that happens over and over and over because not so much is changing?
Yeah. Let me tell you.
That's the reality for quite a few women.
Or they
And-
can't leave the
And
job.
men are often not aware of that. Eh?
Yeah.
Or
And
they
it
have
happened to
I
me
think you're right.
recently.
I think you're right. I think we're ignorant many times. We're just ignorant on the subject. I found something yesterday I learned that I hadn't known before, but it's interesting statistic. 1 in every 44 people on the planet have some form of autism.
Mhm.
Now, if you didn't know what autism was or what that's about or what symptoms they have or what challenges they have, you might think you're talking to somebody that's kind of a little different, a little off, right? And maybe we are. I always tell people, I feel like I'm a little bit crazy. I think we're all, what was it Johnny Depp said once? All the best people are crazy, right? Remember that? And that was Alice in Wonderland, but I know we're not quite in Alice in Wonderland right now. But anyway, no, I just think this whole subject is I always think of the Christmas Carol where the Santa Claus is present, he's standing there, he's got his big robe, and he opens his robe. Do you guys familiar with that scene or that part of Charles Dickens? He says, beware of these two people. He says, one is ignorance and the other is want. But of the two of them, be especially careful of ignorance. Because, we can all learn more, we can all know more, we can all be more real, we can all be more authentic, but we just have to step out of our comfort zone to an extent and try something new.
I want to go back to Bindon for a moment here because we have to bring this to a close in a few minutes.
Sure.
So, Bindu, in India, I've been on your LinkedIn page and on your website reading about everything that you've done and talk about and put out there for people to read. You mentioned that in every state, just about every state, every corner of India is a different language. It's not official, but it's what people do, right? It's how they communicate. And with that, there's different, and there's different cultures, meaning for the region. And the people don't migrate so much, right? Like in the US, migration is like a big deal. But do they do that in India? I'm ignorant. I don't know.
Okay, so we have as many states and as many languages, and they're official. So every state, the policies, everything would be written in that particular vernacular. Okay, and it would be the language of communication in the government schools. English is the primary language of communication only in the private schools. But if you go to the government schools, the primary language would be, and English is also taught. But migration, yes, it does happen. Migration typically happens for education. It happens due to jobs. People migrate when they have a transfer to another state. And so let's say somebody from a state like, not that any of those states will be familiar to you, but if I was to tell you Jaipur, which is known for their beautiful tones and their fabric and everything. So Jaipur is in the west of India. If somebody's working or lived their life there and they have to go do their engineering in, say, Tamil Nadu in the south, culturally, it would be as difficult as you would move from one country in Europe to the other. Or for that matter, if you had to take up a job, it could be even worse. So the language is different, the food is different, the festival, the same festival that he celebrated in his part of the town would be different the way it is celebrated. So that reality of India is not really perceived from the surface, from the outside, only when you come in. So you can imagine it is even difficult for Indians to move from one state to another. It's like an expat relocating from another country into India. There is a thread that will bind all of us. We look alike. We celebrate festivals, we eat rice or we eat wheat, and depending on the regions and so on. But the language is different. By and large, the North and the West will speak Hindi. So the large part of India can actually get away with Hindi, the language, but it is still not the official national language, because the South Indians or the East Indians would not want to accept Hindi as the, they don't want to give that status saying, yes, it is the language. It is the national language, perhaps, but primarily it is, every state has their own language. They're proud of their own language. They're proud of their own culture. And that comes first above everything else. Today, of course, urban India has English, which is ruling everywhere, good and bad of it, yes, but.
Yeah, thank you very much. So let's go around. Everybody should sum up. So Tineke, what are you going to be doing tomorrow?
Tomorrow I'll start working again. Yesterday I came back from Morocco after a month, and well, this is fun work. But tomorrow I'll be going back to the office, and I have to pack, because I finish my office. I stop the contract, so yeah. I have to start packing and getting rid of a lot of stuff I've been having there for over 20 years. So it's also going to be another process.
So
Yeah.
so you're going to be working from home?
Yeah. I finally decided that that's an okay way to do. I always said, I want to have an office. I want to separate my house from my work. But yeah, why?
What part of Morocco are you right now?
I was, I'm now at home, but
okay.
I was last week when I was in a meeting, and you were there too, Mark. I was in Marrakesh, but I stayed in Agadir, close to the coast, for a month, and I just traveled to Marrakesh for a couple of days.
How fun.
Just to experience what it's like to live and work in another country, and escape the winter in Europe. And I'm going to do it again next year, but longer than a month.
We're in Tangier. We learned a little bit of Arabic, and we learned la 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 la.
Well, I learned a few words. If I'm going back to Morocco next,
is what we learned. Yeah.
Shukran, yes. Inshallah and alhamdulillah, and I have learned a few words.
There's a few to learn.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Lynn Schmidt, thank you for being my leader here, and I look forward to doing additional shows with you and other guests, and you're all welcome to join us as we go forward into this month. I'm still building the programs. I do want to say that the Asia Pacific program that I had scheduled for the 16th is still on, but we've lost one of our key people who cannot do it. We still have Singapore, but we lost Tokyo, and we have Manila. So I'm looking to build up our programs as we go around the world. We do have a Latin America program for later in the month. And I have several, a few one-on-ones. These individuals wanted to just do a one-on-one rather than in a group dynamic. But it's all part of the International Women's Month. And you're certainly welcome to join us. I don't think they'll mind. So thank you, Lynn. What are you going to be doing the rest of your day today?
Well, after this, I actually go work out, lift some weights, and get some exercise. So looking forward to that. That's always a great, I don't know, it just makes you feel better. Just like they say you do. You gotta do it to really, if you want to be resilient and thrive.
That's a really good idea. After this, I'm going to go make breakfast, and then I don't know. Maybe I should go out in the rain, just to get some exercise.
The bacon's
I'm gonna
pretty
go
heavy.
cook
I don't
dinner,
know.
Ed.
Yeah, I know the time. And
Yeah.
so, Bindo, thank you for working into your night.
No, that's fine. I just have another show coming up on LinkedIn. This is View from the Top from Brian Adam. I think I'm just going to log in there and.
Oh yeah, that started.
At night, yeah, in a 15 minutes to go.
Yeah.
About 15 minutes
Okay,
to
well,
go.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I mean,
Thank
Thank
you for
you.
letting me join you. I
Thank
really
you,
enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Ed
thank you.
and Lynn, for the
It was
invitation.
great meeting all of
Bye-bye.
you. Great
yeah,
conversation.
great.
Very important.
Exactly.
Yes.
And,
Okay.
Oh,
Let-
and Ed, can I make a suggestion?
Please.
Ask all the men the same question I just asked Mark. What are you doing for the women in your environment? Ask it this month to everybody. What are you doing for the women in your workforce?
That's a
Okay.
quote from Tineke, and I will repeat it.
He's got
In
the
fact,
challenge.
in
He's
fact,
got
the world is
challenge.
going to see this.
And I
So,
would smile and shake every female's hand that I see out there, or every, it's probably not the right words, but I'm still learning how to communicate with everybody, you know. and
Don't
it's-
worry. It's intention. We can feel that.
Yeah,
That's a gift of what we women have. We can feel the intention. So don't worry about the words, that's not all that matters.
thank you.
but this has
We
been
observe gestures. Yeah.
this has been an education for me. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
everybody.
so much.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao. Thank you.